And this is the solution provider edition, which is an important difference between the one that we ran this morning for retailers and manufacturers, and I'll explain a little bit about that in a few minutes. So today what I want to talk to you about is a really big opportunity that we have in the industry as it relates to education on more advanced category management approaches and solutions. And this is really driven off of the CatMan 2.0 white paper that was recently released. But there's a whole series of events that have happened over the last 25 years that have led to the need to make some changes for a more advanced category management solution. So that's really what I want to talk to you about today. Before we get started, I just want to quickly go over the go-to training controls so you know how to maneuver your way around in here. You can minimize and maximize the control panel by clicking on the orange arrow that points to the right. You have your choice of audio options, telephone or mic and speakers. You can use the chat box at any time. If you have questions, technical support, anything that you need someone from CMKG to help you out with as we go through the training. I also try to refer to the chat box if you have any questions as we're going through the training, and I will be giving some time at the end for you to have the opportunity to ask questions as well. There's also a materials section where you can download some materials that I'll be referring to as we go through the session today as well. So I am Sue Nicholls, and I'm the president and owner of a company called Category Management Knowledge Group, or CMKG, and I'm your facilitator for today's session. We are a category management training company. It's primarily what we do. We also end up doing some consulting on category management, but we really have developed some great training solutions for manufacturers, retailers, as well as solution providers who can take our training online in a live environment and so on. So we also have Ty Snaith, who's our Director of Client Services, in with us today, as well as Johanka Gonzalez-McPhee, who's our Implementation Manager. So we welcome you to today's session and are glad that you've taken the time out to attend today. So like I mentioned, our industry has experienced and continues to experience an influx of change. Probably the biggest change is in the shopper. Today's shopper is more diverse demographically as well as attitudinally than ever before. But even more important, today's shopper is really empowered with way more information about the choices available to meet his or her needs. So it really has revolutionized the marketing environment because there's so much internet-enabled information about virtually all aspects of any given category, and so it's really made things a lot more complex than they used to be back in the day when I started doing category management, which I won't even tell you how long ago that was. Today we also have infinitely more data than ever before, and it continues to expand. It's also much more granular than in the past, which is allowing us to get to much deeper views of data than in the past. And subsequently, software and technology have also moved to much more sophisticated engines and complexity, allowing multivariate analysis and integrated data sources, to name a few. And so now things that used to take weeks or months to get done can be done at the click of a button. And also retail marketing is changing. Today success means connecting with the most important shopper, who is the omni-channel shopper, and understanding their much more complex path to purchase. It's not a linear path anymore. It's all over the place, and there's a lot of discussion even what the path to purchase even looks like. E-commerce is also playing havoc on retailers as we as shoppers continue to purchase more and more from the internet. And I know that for me, shopping, especially for Christmas presents this year, has become much more internet-based than in the past, because retailers are doing so much better of a job of actually making it quite fun to spend money online. And I can do it in the comfort of my own home. And by the way, I am based in Calgary, and today it is like minus 30 degrees. So if any of you would like to come up and visit, it's a frosty cold day here. So these plus other changes have really resulted in a lot of changes in category management. Retailers, manufacturers, and solution providers know they should be collaborating, but in some cases they're even struggling to create an internal alignment, never mind external, probably more so in retailers and manufacturers, but in a lot of cases The category management team is doing things on their own, but category and shopper are really not corporate priorities or considerations for organizations. There's also a lot of forgetting the shopper in a lot of the work that's done in category management, with a lot of category management teams being way too tactical and not considering category, retailer, and shopper, and so a strategic piece is really missing from some of the work that's done. Shopper insights and shopper marketing are sometimes being kept in a bubble within many manufacturing organizations, never really making its way as a strategic approach to the business, but more often than not a promotional event. And many organizations are drowning in data and also lacking in processes, and they're not even sure how to incorporate some of the latest data and technology that they've invested on into their best-class approaches to focus on shopper and to try to come out with better solutions for their organization. So basically, some of these considerations led to the creation of an updated and more advanced approach to category management, and that's in this new process called CatMan 2.0. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, the Category Management Association, who is the certification board and industry standards direction company, they published a 325-page white paper on CatMan 2.0 and made it available to all of their members. And it's called Driving Growth in a Shopper-Centric World, and it proposes the conceptual framework for a lot of the important changes that are facing the industry and some of the things I talked about already. And so what I plan to do in today's session is I want to walk you through some of the key changes in CatMan 2.0 and some of the considerations associated with it. Then I want to walk you through the two different training programs that we've developed, these master training programs that we're going to be inviting solutions providers to. But then I also want to talk about how we really hope to have solution providers play an incredibly valuable role in some of the compilation of some of the educational materials and really helping to collaborate with us to develop some really best-in-class solutions for the entire industry. So hopefully you're excited about it. So, like I said, I'm going to be walking you through some of the changes based on CatMan 2.0. If you're familiar with the 8-step category management process, the good news is it hasn't changed. It's still an 8-step process, but there have been some additions and changes made to it. They've added in a pre-step on internal alignment. This has been something I've been talking about for years, because you can't get external collaboration until you have internal collaboration. So you can't just have your category management team doing category management. It really has to be a strategic approach to the business that's adopted by the organization. We have actually several large organizations that we are working with that are really moving to more fact-based training for their sales organization, trying to train their category management category management to their marketing teams and such, and that's one of the ways that they'll get to an internal alignment. And step 4, which is the category assessment, they've added in why are they buying the category, and this is an important incorporation into it because it injects shopper insights into the category management process. Because shopper insights has really evolved over maybe the last 10 years, it really didn't have a place, and in a lot of cases it's being done in a completely separate part of the company, which we'll talk about a little bit more when we talk about structuring of organizations and where companies should have the shopper insights and shopper marketing teams residing, but this is quite a big change agent for them. And the other important thing is that they've added in shopper marketing as the 5th tactic within the category assessment. So this is where we clarify this relationship by defining shopper marketing as a tactic that's a component of the overall category plan. So this is a huge change, and one of the areas that, how do we do this? We don't even, for the most part, we don't even know, and there's some suggestions in the white paper, but these are the examples of some of the areas where there's a really big area of opportunity. Just try to start to put together some parameters behind some of these really good ideas or concepts. And then the last component that has changed is that there's a suggestion for a more robust deployment planning step. And so these are all of the key changes that have happened within the process. And so one of the things that we've really realized is that there's different considerations based on who you are, what your roles and responsibilities are as a solution provider, you know, where you play within the category management process, where your tools and technologies and products and services fit within the process. Some of the requirements for understanding this may be educational, like how the process has changed and how it's anticipated that it will affect retailers and your manufacturers. But some of you may require more strategic considerations, like how are we going to get some of these changes reflected in our organization, and what's the best way to do this? How do we start talking differently about our solutions to manufacturers and retailers based on these changes, and how much do they affect the work that we do and provide? The next component that's changed are the category management foundations. And I am very passionate about this being such an important step in category management, and one that tends to be skipped by a lot of individuals and organizations. But in category management, categories need to be defined based on shopper wants, needs, and buy patterns to define categories, and that includes what items belong within those categories, and as well as to segment items to best satisfy shopper needs through decision trees. So retailers own the authority to approve and new definitions and segmentations, but manufacturers are really encouraged to find the next big ideas for building category businesses, and this starts with the category definition and segmentations. And so category decision trees have become a really important component to create some of those foundations. And it's interesting, category decision trees, until the white paper, they used to be called consumer decision trees, then half of organizations started calling them shopper decision trees, and now the Category Management Association has clarified their name as being category decision trees. And so basically, you know, decision trees in the past have been developed using behavioral data based on what shoppers do, or by analyzing key data sources using a variety of mathematical techniques to find out what items are substitutable for one another, and then there's also multi-dimension scaling and cluster analysis that analyzes interactions between brands and items. I actually went around at the CMA conference because these are the kind of things that I'm a little bit naive to. I used to work for Procter & Gamble, and we used to buy decision trees very regularly and spend lots of money on them, but I never really understood, I didn't realize now how many different options there are for even purchasing decision trees, and all of the different ways to approach developing them, and also the different costs associated with different types of decision trees. And so that's an area that manufacturers and retailers find really confusing right now. So an example of an area of opportunity is to really harness that and you know, better define what different types of category decision trees, what are some of the different methodologies, and you know, the outputs associated with it, and so that organizations can make educational decisions when they're going to invest in decision trees for their organization. There's also a change in CatMan 2.0 that suggests that there's more shopper-focused roles and strategies. In the past, category roles, which are destination, routine, and so on, were assigned primarily based on category size and the importance of the categories to different retailers. And so the ones who are the most important, the top 15% approximately, represented the destination categories, and those were the ones that they would tend to have more promotion on, hotter pricing, better shelf placement, a broader assortment, those kind of things. A lot of that is changing because that doesn't reflect what might be most important to the shopper in their minds when they come into that retailer. And so there's this big opportunity. Once again, it's conceptual, I would say, at this point, because how do you create more shopper-focused roles to really identify categories that may end up becoming destination categories that don't even hit the top 30% of volume categories, those kind of things. So once again, a really big area of opportunity. What I mentioned before, we really tend to forget about strategy in a lot of the category management work that's done. And in a lot of cases, both retailers and manufacturers, quite honestly, are neglecting to even have some of these foundations formally identified and structured and shared with their organization. It's really, really big area of opportunity. not just to inject shopper into some of these important foundations, but also to incorporate it in as part of the necessary and ongoing look at the category, so that it's not something you did in 1990, you assign category roles because it was the new category management approach, but that these things are actually refreshed and considered, because this is where the strategy sits within those categories. So once again, there's some different considerations based on these changes in category management foundations that you can see in the questions on the right-hand side. And so these are some of the things that you may need to know that relate to things that should change in the category management foundations. And once again, the level of depth in these questions, how important they are to you, and how much you can influence them may vary based on your roles and responsibilities within your solution provider organization. The next change is in category assessment, or what I always call the fun stuff. I grew up in category management, and this is the stuff that really got me excited, and I still love looking at and analyzing data. What we as category management, this is what we're usually the best at, category management practitioners, and that's at analyzing the data. There's many advanced approaches that need to be reflected in any types of category analysis, whether it's internal or external. In a lot of cases, I'm really finding that manufacturers and retailers are really sticking to their old-fashioned approaches on ways that they're approaching category and doing their assessments and category reviews. And there's such a big opportunity to try to start showing them ways to better reflect some of these more advanced approaches. Utilizing some of the new data sources and tools and analytics. How do we start plugging those into best-in-class category reviews and showing examples of exactly what that looks like? How do we start using advanced analytics like modeling and forecasting and predictive analytics? And where are some examples and some case studies that we can show and display to get them to see things that are, to take them beyond a concept and show them some of the theoretical examples and simple ways that they can maybe be able to do these things at their desk, and or some of the more advanced approaches and options that are available. And then scorecarding is another one where they're suggesting much more advanced scorecarding. And one of the things that is really surprising to me is that there's a lot of manufacturers who aren't doing any kind of scorecarding. So once again, a really big area of opportunity to start to teach them how to do these more sophisticated scorecards that integrate some of the shopper measures that are available as well. One of the other things that we work a lot very closely with both retailers and manufacturers through our student body and through our clients. And one of the things is that when you scratch below the surface on a lot of the work that's being done, the shopper is really missing from a lot of the work, or it's done in a very, very linear approach. And so it's like, okay, here's the analysis about the shopper. Okay, now here's the analysis about what's happening in the category and where your opportunities are. Okay, now here's your assortment analysis. And it's very linear instead of it being a holistic approach and view of the category. And so that shopper is what needs to be woven through the whole category management approach. And once again, a really big area of opportunity. So once again, here's some of the considerations that should be tied in with advanced category assessments, analytics, and scorecards. So once again, taking a look at those and thinking which ones really resonate most with you and your company and the role that you do and the products and services that you provide to your manufacturers and retailers. Next are the category tactics, and this is where category management practitioners also spend a lion's share of their time because they are the drivers of action and volume for the categories. The most compelling change here is the addition of the fifth tactic, which is the shopper marketing that I mentioned before. It's a major change to the work that we do. How do we analyze the success of shopper marketing alongside the other tactics? What does that even look like? A lot of companies don't know. Also, for each of the other tactics, there's incredible granularity of data, different softwares that allow analysis at a finite level, and people can't, individuals and teams and organizations can't possibly stay abreast of everything going on across all of these different tactics. And once again, this is a really great area for solution providers to start to be able to add value with some of those educational opportunities to understand. Especially when there's all of these different considerations across each of the different category tactics. But for most of us, and for most category management practitioners and leaders, all of these pieces are really important for them to understand in order to make better decisions and recommendations for their categories, their retailers, and their shoppers. Another component in CatMan 2.0 that recommends significant change, and it kind of makes sense based on what I've walked you through so far, are changes to org structure, internal alignment, and return on investment in category management. So according to CatMan 2.0, roles that are interdependent should be in the same organization. So that being said, they claim that shopper insights, shopper marketing, and category management are interdependent in creating the necessary output for the ultimate client, who is the retailer, via the category platform. This is a really big change for a lot of organizations, and for a lot of organizations right now, their shopper insights and shopper marketing teams are sitting within their marketing organization and not within their sales organization. The important thing to remember is that it's actually the retailer's shoppers. It's not the marketing team's shoppers. It's not the brand's shoppers. It's the retailer shoppers, and that's why having a category and shopper understanding in the category management area is necessary, and it's a really great way actually for point number 2 on internal alignment. In order to be successful in category management, your organization needs to be internally aligned. If you follow my blogs or any of the work that I've been doing over the last few years, I have been preaching this for quite some time about you've got to activate collaboration internally before you can even do external collaboration with your retailer or manufacturer partners. So it can't just be the category management that's doing category management. Organizations need to have a category and shopper perspective, strategy, and understanding in order to be truly successful at category management. And then the last component of these changes is around return on investment, and how do you measure return on investment from doing category management work. There's such a huge investment in data and technology and resources in order to be able to do that work, but it's so difficult to measure, and so that there's a whole there's a lot of different ideas in terms of how you can actually measure that ROI, and some of you guys may have also have the intellect on some of that area as well. So there's some pretty big changes being recommended here, especially as it relates to shopper insights and marketing, moving under the sales umbrella and into category management. And so a lot of organizations are trying to figure out how do you move to internal alignment? How do you move to integrate shopper insights and marketing into the category management process? And how far away are you right now from getting there? Because you can't just do this overnight. It's not something that can happen quickly. For a lot of organizations that that we work with, you know, they're really not as far along or as advanced in category management as they may even think that they are, and so they need to kind of develop a plan on how to do that. And so a lot of organizations are really struggling with that right now. So here's some of the considerations that really tie in with these big strategic and structural pieces that are changing. But as a leader or influencer, they've got some big decisions to make as it relates to the changes required in order for them to get there. And finally, the last part of change to the category management approach is regarding deployment and supply chain. It's certainly not the least important, but it does come at the end of the category management process, so sometimes, unfortunately, it can tend to actually be forgotten as well. You know, the planograms get approved and then you move on to the next project. But successful deployment and compliance are obviously critical and require improvements for efficient and effective ways to execute at the store shelf. Supply chain is an area that needs to be better understood and considered by category management practitioners and leaders. we work very closely, like I said, with a lot of students, and I've actually had conversations with individuals about why they need to understand retail economics and the product supply chain in their sales role, because they don't seem to think that that's something that's very important and it's not relevant for their job. But when you're making changes to things like store level assortments and just making decisions on regional SKUs and even things like online sales, it's really important to understand how these things have an impact on the supply chain, and even with a bigger connectivity to connect the category management and supply chain together. I have a background from Procter & Gamble, and we never learned any of these kind of things. We didn't really know anything about the supply chain, never mind about retail supply chain management as well. So it's a really big area that I think needs to be further explored. And so once again, there's all kinds of considerations that need to be tied in with a more advanced category management approach. So I've walked you through a lot of changes in category management, which also result in a broad set of considerations. And it's leaving a lot of individuals and teams and leaders within the industry pretty overwhelmed with all of the decisions and education that they need at a more advanced level than what's even necessarily available today. And so using this framework and a deep long-term experience and expertise in category management, I'm really excited to announce our new Category Management Master's training that we've developed for both practitioners in the field as well as the leaders who are going to be forging the path through a lot of uncharted territory. There's not answers to a lot of the ideas and concepts that are, you know, either explored in CatMan 2.0 or you scratch below the surface of some of this stuff, and it really doesn't exist yet. And so there's a really big opportunity for solution providers to also become part of the education, being educated as well as becoming educators. And so I'm really excited to have you guys potentially participating in both of those areas through our new program. One of the things that we really acknowledge is that there's different areas of interest in all of these different topic areas based on individuals, roles, and organizations. And this is really based on the sophistication of the company, the size of the company, the number of resources they have available, the data they purchase, you know, how sophisticated their technologies are, as well as what they're responsible for within their role and within their team. So as an example, folks who do advanced category management work or are responsible for understanding it from a more strategic perspective, there's this educational piece that's required. I know I'm a person that I want to know what I don't know. And so, but it's really hard to keep track of everything that's going on within the industry. And further to that, really trying to figure out what can I change at my desk? How do I make sure that the work that I'm doing is keeping me relevant, is allowing me to come in with the best solutions or making the best decisions and recommendations based on whatever my roles and responsibilities are. Then we have the other piece, and this is more for executives and leaders and influencers within organizations who not only need to be educated on all of the changes that I've talked about, but they also need to be making decisions for their team and organization on what their priorities are, how they're going to move forward with the priorities, what data and technology and new tools that they're going to be investing in for their organization. And so you think about how with all of the different things that are changing or have changed out there, how overwhelming this must be for executives and leaders of organizations trying to stay abreast of everything that's going on and then making the right decisions based on the strategic priorities and where their organization is trying to go. So based on these two different perspectives, we've developed two different tracks of training. We've developed one for category management advanced practitioners called the Master Training Series, and then we've developed one for CatMan executives and influencers called the Master's Training Program. And we've also incorporated within that a solution provider's piece. And so what I want to do is I'm going to walk you through it just so you completely understand what kind of where we're coming from with this, is I'm going to walk you through the master's training series and program and explain how they work, and then I'll talk about the solution provider program at the end, because it kind of is a combination of different things. So the master's courses and series is a 12-month series of live or recorded webinars that we're going to be running in 2017 that reflect all of the major changes to category management. So a lot of the things that I talked about, addressing pretty much all of those questions that you saw as considerations that I walked through. It's going to help individuals and teams stay relevant, meet the advanced needs of their customers, whether it's manufacturers or retailers, and also stay engaged in what's changing in the industry. So these courses may be very valuable for your team or parts of your team so that they can really stay relevant and be able to have more strategic conversations with your manufacturer or retail or customers or whoever it is that you're calling on. So you can get accurate information about CatMan, advanced CatMan approaches that it will impact your day-to-day role using an updated advanced category management process. The target audience for this program is category management practitioners, analysts, sales, marketing, and other roles. Really anyone who wants to move to more advanced knowledge based on specific topics or on all of the topics. And I'll be covering the topics in just a minute here. It's important to note that folks need to be experienced in category management, or because it's not going to be teaching the basics or explaining some of the foundational things. We're going to have a level of assumption that people are pretty well versed in category management. So we're recommending that intermediate to advanced folks, or even those with if there's certification, if you have certification that they're certified at the category manager or strategic advisor level, that they'll benefit most from this training, because people who are relatively new to category management or haven't been trained on some of the foundations may struggle with the level of complexity, because we are going to be kind of submersing ourselves into some relatively complex topics within these courses. You can see what you're going to learn in each of the different webinars, and these are just general ones. We actually have specific learning objectives behind each of the different topics that I'll be showing you. But in net, we're going to be educating students on different topic areas to give them an understanding of what the topic is, some practical applications and considerations. Will also help to determine how to apply some of these new concepts at your desk and in your role. And it's also going to allow you to speak very knowledgeably with your peers, managers, and customers at this more advanced level that relates to these different topics. So what I want to share with you now is our webinar plan for 2017. So you can see in the white box the months that these are going to be running. We're going to be releasing the dates of the webinars early next week. And so basically, when you purchase the webinar, you're going to have the choice of attending the live webinar, where we'll obviously have more interactivity. We run polling questions. We get students to be more engaged in it. But we're also going to have access to the recording in our learning management system for the duration of the program. So if you buy the entire series, you'll be able to access all of the webinar recordings within our learning management system. Every month we'll add in the new recording into your profile, so that over the course of the year we'll just keep adding more and more content into it. You can see that the topics that we're running each month tie in with much of what I talked about as changes in category management. Here's a few of the more details. We're not going to just provide the webinars. We're also going to be providing at least one download. In some cases, we'll be providing some additional learning materials. That's another area that solution providers will potentially get involved with us in. And we're also going to be suggesting action items or key considerations for each of the topics as they go through them. In our learning management system, there's also going to be an assessment or a test on the topic. So once you successfully pass the test, you will be able to access a certificate for each course. And if you complete all of the 12 courses and pass the test, then you will get a CatMan Master Series certificate that you can proudly don in your office and have a glowing light around it to show how amazingly smart you are. The cost of the program is $599 US per person, and that's for the entire series. We did try to make it very cost effective. Another note, if you purchase online before December 13th, you will get a 30% discount that nets to you to around $420 for the 12 courses. So it's a pretty well-priced option, and we are going to be packing it as much as possible with the best and most relevant educational content that we can put together. Johanka just posted in the chat box a link to the store if you want to go in and take a look at the training that's available in our store. The next part of the training is the master's program. This is very different than, it's a more enhanced version than the webinar series. It's a unique social learning platform that we're really targeting to executives and influencers in organizations. So this program includes the webinar recordings and testing like I just talked about in the master series, but it's also extended to include anonymous discussion groups. So everybody within the social learning platform will be anonymous. There's case studies, there will be case study surveys and assignments in each topic area, and we'll be providing some different options of what leaders may want to be working on based on what's most important for them. And this is going to be, once again, an area of opportunity for solution providers to be providing some of the content for these things with us. And also there will be an opportunity for them to get peer feedback from other leaders in the industry. And for solution providers, you will be invited to participate as a student and somebody who can give feedback and perspective on some of the topics and such. It's just not going to be somewhere that you're going to be selling your goods. It's going to be 100% education, and we are going to be really kind of policing, I guess, for lack of a better term, to make sure that this really is an educational environment. And there will be an opportunity that I'll talk about in a while of how there can all back to solutions as well. So for this master's program, we created this really what we are considering for industry leaders. It's going to allow them to establish the areas that are priorities for their organization, because every organization is different budgets, different priorities, different cultures, but really the opportunity is to help them to determine options for moving forward in the areas that they deem as being most important to them. So we're suggesting that those who participate in this program have to be influencers who can make change in their organization, and they also need to have a very strong background in category management in order to participate in this program, because there are just it's going to be at a very high level that we're going to be having these discussions. I apologize to you if there's a issue with my audio. It seems I'm getting a bit of feedback that there may be a little bit of cutting off, so I apologize if that's happening. I can't fix the internet, unfortunately, although sometimes I would like to be able to. So the program for the master's area that I'm just talking about starts 1 month after the first educational webinar in the master's series, and we will build the program as the topics evolve. So you can see the topics in the white box on the left. And they do coincide with when the webinars are running in the master series. But you'll see the topics and the amount of time that we're going to be spending in the different areas in the calendar. It's going to require, in general, about 2 to 3 hours per topic area, or 2 to 3 hours per month to get through the materials and to make sure. And the really nice thing is that for different areas that people have a particular passion or interest that they want to dig deeper in, they can spend more or less time in those areas, and because of this social learning aspect. And it's really great because since they're anonymous, it's also a safe place for leaders to go to ask questions, get involved, provide perspective, and learn what they need to know. Because sometimes as leaders, it's assumed that everybody knows everything, and pretty much it's not almost ever the case. but a lot of people don't like to admit that they don't know things or that they're struggling on making decisions on things. And so this is a really great way to foster this and also keep people up to speed in terms of where they're able to where they want to be playing and where they're going to kind of go, you know, this is interesting, but it's not something that we even want to think about investing in for our organization right now. So the master's program is 12 months long. It includes access to a social learning system that's going to host everything for the program. The topics will get added in each month, including the webinar recordings. They'll receive emails when the materials are available. There's going to be program certificates, one for each topic area. They're going to have to complete assignments and tests, and then one for the entire program. Assuming that they complete all of the different topics. There's also going to be the opportunity to become ambassadors and knowledge experts in specific areas. Peers will be able to like the work that's being contributed, and we will also be kind of figuring out and understanding where a lion's share of people are going and contributing and getting into discussions, because that really reflects to us the biggest areas of opportunity to even further drill into. So we really see this as being such an evolution. We certainly aren't claiming that we know everything across all of these different topics that we're covering, but we will foster the relationships and the research and working with you as the solution providers, as well as working with the manufacturers and retailers to really come up with as good as we can, given everything that we have access to in a great network, to develop some really great best-in-class materials and solutions that are going to evolve. This is going to be a really big evolution as we go through and do this. And my personal opinion is that it's going to evolve into something even bigger down the road. The cost for this program is $1,499 US per person. There's group discounts available for greater than 5 people. And once again, you can purchase online before December 13th to get 30% off. So those are the 2 programs and the 2 tracks available. And now I want to talk a little bit more about the solution provider piece, which is probably what you're most interested in getting an understanding of. So this is really the opportunity. We are, you know, as a solution provider ourselves, as a training company, sometimes we are seen as being, you know, all we do is try to sell our stuff. And sometimes, you know, we're not included in industry discussions, even though we have some pretty, I think, smart people and some great IP that we can really contribute with. And so we have put together a program where we're inviting solution providers not just to be educated, but to help with the education piece. And so basically, as a solution provider, there's 3 different ways that you can participate in the program. By having parts of your team complete the educational master's courses or series, and this is going to help to improve their understanding of how and where your products and services even fit within this whole new category management framework, and in providing more advanced category management solutions to your retailer and manufacturer customers. Then there's a strategic and collaborative piece. There may be other people in your organization who should be participating as students in the master's program, where they can collaborate with industry executives, experts and thought leaders to explore and debate what's ahead, to be really educated and start, you know, having some really breakthrough thinking and ideas, and seeing what some of the conversations are that are going on with industry leaders to really reflect some of the opportunities that even might be improving your own tools and products and services. And then finally, the third part, which I think is the coolest part for the solution providers, is through thought leadership. And this is by positioning your company through sharing content, ideas, and examples that illustrate and bring to life best practices, solutions, and new approaches within different topics of the master's training. I personally think that solution providers are some of the most brilliant people in the entire industry, but sometimes that educational piece and those pieces of IP can either get lost, or they're just integrated into sales presentations and such, and there's a really big opportunity to kind of position your company through the sharing of content and ideas and examples that really illustrate and bring to life new best practices, solutions, and approaches to some of these areas that right now are a little bit gray or conceptual. So ways that we can see solution providers contributing are things like educational case studies, sharing data and examples across different topics, pioneering new best practices with us, developing assignments for our leaders or for the master series based on different topics, different educational resources, providing white papers, and really in some cases really helping to move from concept to theory. It's pretty cool because some of this stuff doesn't exist. And so, you know, by working with us, we can really, I think we can come up with some pretty awesome solutions to some things right now that don't really have any. So the way that the solution provider piece is going to work, like in terms of the providing educational materials and IP, is that we want to find solution providers who are interested in being involved in this aspect of the program, and you're more than welcome to just participate in the educational pieces if that's all that you want to do. But if you do want to participate in the educational pieces, then we'll be sharing which topics and then kind of getting the solution providers to sign up for which ones they think that they're going to be able to contribute most to. Then we're going to be providing a calendar for the entire year of when submissions are going to need to be made, and that's going to be 6 weeks prior to the webinar corresponding topic reading for the webinar. And we will also be providing the standards required for educational materials, it has to be educational, and there's not going to be, you know, pieces of marketing incorporated into it. It has to be educational materials. We'll send requests for submissions via standard form with specific asks on what we're looking for. You know, as an example with the consumer decision trees, you know, what are different ways to develop the decision trees and the methodologies and the benefits of that approach and the approximate costs and those kind of things. It's going to be all over the map in terms of some of the different things that we'll be looking for. And you might realize when you're going through it that, wow, we could actually help with that, but we didn't even think about our products or services even adding value in that area, but you might have some pretty cool after all. So it's when you sign up, things you actually decide, wow, we can actually contribute to something that's afterwards. And then what we'll be doing is that when we receive the education material, the submissions back from solution providers, we'll either approve them for educational materials and determine where they kind of fit within the training. Is it going to be materials used in the webinar or as a resource for the webinar, or is it going to be used in the master's program as an assignment, or is it going to be used across different pieces? We will, or we will request clarification from solution providers. So if we feel like there is something missing or something needs to be enhanced on, or we want perspective, we'll meet with you to make sure that we clearly understand it before we use it. And then finally, if we find that there some of the standards haven't been followed, or there's changes that we would like to suggest to make it better, or you know, help it to fit better with the educational materials that we're putting together, then we'll also do that ask. But we want to include as many different options as we can so that it makes it relevant for different scenarios, because you think about the different industries and roles and the difference between the people who are going to be attending the master series versus the master programs and the leaders. There's a lot of information that can be incorporated into it, and we really do want, we're not going to be doing proprietary partnerships with specific solution providers, because my feeling on that is that we're a training company, and by us partnering with specific solution providers and only offering that one perspective is really limiting this being an industry approach, and that's a really important component for us. Some of the additional opportunities that will be available to solution providers, we are going to have a solution provider library within the master's program. So in that social learning platform, there will be an area where leaders can go and get perspective on, so if they see in one of the training programs or one of the examples or downloads that some of your information was used. They'll be able to go to the Solution Provider Library and find out a lot more information about you, as well as contact information. And we'll be there's different options for you that will be available in terms of what you will want to include in there, whether it's links out to a video or your website or whatever. Other opportunities include co-facilitating as an educational practitioner part of the webinars. If you're as passionate as I am and as my team is about training and education, and you are a knowledge expert in some of these areas, then we may ask you to participate as a co-facilitator in part of the webinars, or developing some additional enhanced materials for some component of it. There's also the opportunity to become educational ambassadors for the master's program. We've had a lot of interest expressed in this. Once again, this is 100% educational. It's not to represent your company, but it does in a way. It's a really soft sell way for you to sell your materials, is through showing and helping the industry build knowledge in specific areas that you may be an expert in. And then the other opportunity is to invite your clients to actually participate in the master series or programs. And we do have a commission-based program available for solution providers who would like to do that as well. So if you're recommending this to your clients, then we can also reflect that through a commission-based approach. So based on that, there's a lot of different benefits to getting involved in this program, and I really hope that as a solution provider you'll very seriously consider coming on board with this. I'm not going to read out all of the different benefits here, but it's a pretty unique and different approach that I think is really going to help the industry. It's going to help your organization to really figure out how to evolve in this very rapidly changing world, based on a lot of the response and feedback that you're going to see from some of the industry leaders in all of these different topic areas that we're going to be covering over the course of 2017. So I really hope that you'll take advantage of this and become a part of the program. In terms of some of the materials that are available for this webinar, one of the things that we developed is this advanced category management scorecard, and it's really to help you as somebody who might be potentially interested in the educational piece, in terms of what do I need and where can I influence, or where do I think that might be most relevant based on all of those different considerations that I walked you through before. So you can download this, print it off, and go through the exercise of kind of going through and figuring out, okay, what's important for me to know, what's not relevant, and where can I, how can I influence this, or what are the most important areas that we really can't be left out, and then determining what your next steps might be based on the outcomes of putting together that scorecard. So if you're uncertain as to how you might want to participate in this program, this might be a really good starting point for you. The other thing that we have available is this master's training overview document, and so it walks through the master's courses in the series, the master's program, as well as the solution provider program, and it breaks out all of the different aspects of it and what the differences are. And so this is probably something you will want to download and print off. And if you are interested in inviting some of your own clients to it, then it may be something that you want to forward to them as well. So we've got those documents available for you. In terms of next steps from here, I do suggest that you complete that evaluation if you're a little bit unsure as to whether or not this might be something for you to work on. I hope that you'll consider investing in the master's training and really becoming someone that is not only going to get educated in some of these advanced areas, but also help to be an educator. I think it's a really awesome opportunity for us as solution providers to really lead the way and lead the charge in something as important as this advanced category management approach. There's a lot of people who have been sitting, doing more advanced category management for a long time, but not really sure how to move forward, and I think that we've really found a cool solution to do that for both practitioners as well as for leaders and organizations. I also would like to know if you are interested in being involved in the Solution Provider Program from an educational perspective. There is a link, and I believe that Johanka has also put it into the chat section. Yes, she has. She's very efficient, letting us know if you're interested. So if you click on the link and go to the form, we will connect with you and start to get the ball rolling, because we really do want to start to understand, and because there's quite a broad series of different topic areas and resident experts that we do want to get involved in this, so we really want to make sure that we're capitalizing on all the different areas. And so we would, like I said, we would love for you to get involved in all the different aspects of this program, and we can set up a meeting with you and start getting the ball rolling, because kicking off at the end of January, that one is not as big of a deal, that webinar, because it's kind of putting the framework behind the rest of the year. But when we kick off the leader program in February, that's when the rubber really hits the road. You can also contact us, so if you do have questions or you want us to help you to determine what the right solution might be for your team based on your, your unique organization, then we're more than happy to work with you on that as well. Okay, so in terms of where to go from here, I am opening the floor to questions right now. I'm sure that there's lots of questions to be asked. Like I said, if you would prefer to meet with me one-on-one and have a discussion, I'm more than happy to do that. But if you have any questions that you would like for me to address right now, I will stay on the line to answer any questions. You can just type them in the chat box and I will address them for you. Otherwise, I know that it's almost the top of the hour, so I thank you very much for participating. I hope you will take this back to your organization and figure out how we can work together to really make this something that will benefit your organization and the industry as well, to really move forward with a more advanced and sophisticated category management approach. So thank you for your time, and I hope you have an excellent day. And like I said, if you have any questions, please type them in the chat box right now.